Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the super sophisticated supply chain attack that recently compromised the hugely popular NX build system.
You have to ask yourself, could the very tools you trust every single day turn against you? Well, for thousands of developers, that question became a terrifying reality on August 26, 2025, when a trusted tool was turned into a weapon. So let's break down exactly how this all went down.
To get a sense of the scale we're talking about here, just look at this number, 4 million. That's how many times the NPX package is downloaded every single week. The potential blast radius for an attack like this is just staggering.
And the attackers here were fast. We're talking about a 5-hour window. In just a little over 5 hours, they pushed out 8 malicious versions across 2 major branches. I mean, think about that. It was this rapid-fire assault that exposed countless developers before anyone even really knew what was happening. Okay, so the bad code is out in the wild. But what did this malware actually do once it landed on a developer's machine? Well, let's take a look inside the payload. And you got to appreciate the nerve. They called the malicious script telemetry.js. Pretty sneaky. This script was basically a digital smash and grab, a vacuum cleaner for all your secrets. First, it would hoover up system info and environment variables. Then it went hunting for the big stuff, crypto wallets. We're talking MetaMask, Ledger, the whole shebang. And finally, it went after the crown jewels for any developer, your GitHub tokens, NPM credentials, and of course your SSH keys. Basically everything.
Okay, but here's where things get really wild. This is a game changer, and not in a good way. This is the first known attack to weaponize developer AI assistants. The malware literally fed this prompt you see here directly to local AI tools like Claude and Gemini. It turned your helpful coding buddy into an internal spy or reconnaissance agent on a mission to find and list all your sensitive files.
So that begs the big question, right? How in the world did these attackers get the keys to the kingdom to publish malicious packages in the first place? Well, it all comes down to the anatomy of this attack, which started with a classic but devastatingly effective vulnerability. The foot in the door was a bash injection vulnerability in a GitHub workflow. It's an old-school trick, but man, is it effective. They found a flaw that let them execute their own code on the next build servers just by, get this, creating a pull request with a specially crafted title. That's it. That's all it took to get their code running on the inside.
So why was this even possible? It all comes down to one tiny but absolutely critical configuration choice. The workflow is using the dangerous pull request target trigger. Now, for those who don't live and breathe GitHub Actions, here's the deal. Pull request is safe. It runs with restricted permissions. But pull request target? That's the one you have to watch out for. It runs code from an external PR with the full permissions of the main repository, including access to all the secrets, a huge no-no.
And this wasn't just a single exploit, it was a brilliant and terrifying chain of events. So follow me here. The attacker opens a pull request with that malicious title. That triggers the vulnerable workflow, which runs their code with high permissions. But here's the genius part. Their code didn't steal the secret directly. Instead, it triggered a different, totally trusted workflow called publish.yml. That workflow had the secret NPM token. The attacker's code simply told this trusted workflow to, hey, just send that token over to my server. And it did. Game over.
Okay, we've dissected the how. Now for the most important part of this whole explainer. What do you need to do right now to figure out if you've been hit and how to lock things down? First things first, check your projects. Now, look for any of these compromised versions. And I don't mean just glancing at your package.json. You need to get deep into your package.lock.json file because that's where the truth is. And listen up, this is important. It wasn't just the CLI tool. The NX VS Code extension was also a vector, so update it immediately.
So what are the red flags? These are the big indicators of compromise. If you suddenly see a public repo on your GitHub called Singularity Repository, that's a huge one. Inside, you might find a file named results.b64. That's your stolen data. They also did something really nasty. They added a sudo shutdown command to your shell config file, a little time bomb to shut down your system. If you see any of these signs, you have been compromised. No question about it.
All right. If you found any of those signs, you need to act immediately. First, update your packages. Second, get rid of those malicious repos. Third, clean that shutdown command out of your shell configs. But listen to me. The fourth step is the most critical one. The one you absolutely cannot skip. Rotate all your credentials. GitHub tokens, NPM tokens, SSH keys, any API keys in your .env files. You have to assume everything is compromised. Burn it all down and start fresh.
So let's zoom out for a second, because this wasn't just another piece of malware. What happened here really represents a new frontier, and frankly, it's a pretty scary evolution in supply chain attacks.
So what are the big takeaways? First, AI tools are now officially a weapon for attackers. Second, attackers are getting smarter, combining local theft with cloud uploads. Third, the tools we trust most, our IDE extensions, are a huge risk. And finally, this is crucial, the attack doesn't end when the package is fixed. This idea of long-tail credential abuse means those stolen tokens can be used for a second wave of attacks way down the line.
And look, if all this talk of stolen keys and malicious code has you feeling a bit down, don't let your good vibes get compromised. The best defense is staying on top of this stuff. So if you want to stay informed, make sure you're subscribed to VibeDoc. We'll keep breaking down complex topics just like this to help you stay informed and secure. We promise.
And that really leaves us with a pretty heavy question, doesn't it? As our dev tools get smarter, are we actually becoming more vulnerable? The NX heist is a brutal reminder that the answer might be yes. It proves that as our tools evolve, so do the threats against them. And that means the responsibility on every single one of us to be vigilant has never, ever been higher.